the Cybersecurity and Compliance Podcast with Craig Petronella. Learn about the most current IT security threats in ransomware, phishing, business email compromise, cybercrime tactics, cyber heist schemes, social engineering scams, as well as hints and tips from leading professionals to help you prevent hackers from penetrating your network and dropping ransomware or malware payloads. This podcast will arm you with the best info to defend your network against the latest cyber crimes. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And now, here's your host, Craig Petronella.
Welcome to another PTG podcast. Today it is myself, Erin, and we also have Blake and Dwight. And as we mentioned yesterday we went over the top cybersecurity myths that we see out there. So today we're going to go over the top cybersecurity statistics, figures, and facts. So
we got some good stuff.
We do have some good stuff. We're getting this from CompTIA. It was just published a couple months ago. So it's probably going to be extremely relevant.
Fresh out of the bakery.
Fresh, relevant, something that you should definitely take note of. So I guess let's just go ahead and hop right into it. Starting out, we have cybersecurity trends to watch for. Blake, do you want to maybe pick out some interesting statistics?
Yeah, so this is the one that stuck out the most to me, but according to Microsoft, nearly 80% of nation-state attackers targeted government agencies, think tanks, and other NGOs.
Wow.
That to me is like brain explosion.
It also kind of shows how the future of warfare is probably going to be cyber warfare, minus the crazy attack on Ukraine.
We were throwing the idea around, if war will exist, cyber warfare takes over. I can imagine it's cheaper. Who would think? Tanks are millions and millions and millions of dollars, and you can pay some 28-year-old kid with beer and cigarettes and maybe $20,000 to hack some colonial pipeline or something. Who knows?
You know, I was also thinking that probably also be less deadly, but if you attack the power grid, that could actually be more deadly, or I don't know, that could be really bad, obviously.
Yeah, think about what would happen. We all have refrigerators. We all have got food stored there. People may not be able to eat or store food. Obviously, get on the internet. We might not be able to do a podcast. I might lose my income. People working from home might lose their income. Be pretty devastating.
During the dead of winter or the heat of summer, people could not have electricity or heat.
Oh, yeah.
I live on a boat, so it probably wouldn't affect me as much as people.
You might just wash away because the power grid's gone.
Hopefully not.
Dwight is ready to say something. I feel it.
Oh, loss of power would be major. Everything from your home appliances, internet, goodness, what else? What do we use that doesn't require power? Very little.
Transportation, you can have gas or whatever, but...
Yeah, but you think about the gas pumps, right? A lot of those are electric. They need electricity at gas pumps and stuff like that. So
people wouldn't be able to travel.
We might be able to drive, but you've only got a tank of gas to go. So what happens after that? It would have a major impact for sure.
I've been seeing all the people that have been flexing their Teslas and their smart cars, and they're like, haha, people that have gas cars, LOL, you guys are the ones paying the price now. Yeah, that would totally change if the power grids went down. They would never be able to drive again.
And who knows how long it would take to get it back up.
Yeah, I wonder if we'd still have to pay our electrical bills.
Nobody writes checks anymore. They expect us to walk over and give them.
Online banking.
Man, yeah.
Especially me, since I lock my debit card every 2 seconds, I wouldn't even be able to go to an ATM.
It would be devastating. I think it would be devastating. It would have a major impact on people. And it's not a real war, but it would be.
It would be devastating.
Yeah, definitely. We would be blind.
Oh, it would be a mess.
Yeah.
It's really interesting coming from a lifestyle where I've lived in houses my whole life, going on a boat. Sometimes we don't really have a lot of power. We've got issues with the internal electric, so we bypass it, but we didn't really have access to a lot of electricity, especially in the beginning. And it is crazy how much you rely on energy and you just don't even realize it. You can't even charge your phone if you don't have electricity. It's just stupid little stuff like that. You can't turn on lights. We are using our phones as flashlights. You don't realize how dependent you become on electricity until you lose it. So I think that definitely something to keep in mind.
Scary just to think about it.
It is. The threat of nuclear war is bad enough, but to take down the power grid, I think about that kind of stuff. There's got to be bad actors all up in our power grid. There's no way that the power companies are more secure. I just feel like people aren't taking cybersecurity seriously, and they need to.
Yep. I think that's what we preach every podcast. If we could say a couple sentences and just not do podcasts, it would be take cybersecurity seriously.
Take cybersecurity seriously.
Don't be a low-hanging fruit. Be a cybersecurity onion.
Yes.
That's what we were talking about.
Exactly. It's something that you found interesting in the cybersecurity trends to watch for.
I was just looking at a spin-off of what we were talking about Microsoft, the first one that Blake brought up, and supply chain attacks. I think they're already happening right now. I think we're getting a lot of that right now. So interruption of food, interruption of everyday needs, requirements. What about pharmaceutical needs and stuff like that in the supply chain?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And that's happening right now. So looking at the list again, I would say identity theft. That's a big one too now. There's lots of people. I hear it even from people in my immediate sphere of influence that, oh yeah, I had this happen to me and I had my bank and I had to go in and say I wasn't this person, or I had to go and reset all my information. And that's a big thing now too. So identity theft, and that's going to continue to climb, I think. And people are impacted in a big way there, because if you can't get a hold of your information, it's very traumatic and it's very disruptive when somebody loses their identity.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the graphs. You can see it, year to year, things are inching up, and especially 2020, things seem to have jumped quite a bit, almost 40%.
Yeah, 42.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Wow. What sticks out to you on this list?
You're probably not going to be surprised, the one that sticks out to me, Blake, but where it says social media is likely to see enhanced oversight of information. I obviously believe in freedom of speech, but the problem comes in where people use that freedom of speech to manipulate other people and lie. And also, it's important to keep in mind, too, that social media platforms are not the government. So people get really upset about freedom of speech and things like that, but any business is allowed to have their standards. And I feel like if there's lies going out there, misinformation campaigns, it needs to be shut down.
I think this would be an interesting time to bring up the fact that Elon Musk just made a huge offer for Twitter.
Gosh, I saw that. $42 billion.
I saw a timeline of Elon Musk, and he's the coolest troll, internet troll. But I guess it made some suggestions to Twitter about how they can improve their social experience or their platform. And then they offered him a seat on the board, and then he bought the company, and then he declined the seat on the board. He bought it with 9% or something. Declined the seat on the board, and then now the stockholders of Twitter sued Elon Musk for the earnings report going out. And now Elon Musk offered to buy the whole company in cash.
Yeah. I was looking at the news on that. $43 billion to purchase.
In cash.
Yeah, I think he owns 11% of Twitter so far.
It's 9, if I'm not mistaken. But I was thinking about how detrimental this would be to our world. He clearly is an advocate of freedom of speech, freedom of information. He is anti-censorship. And it'd be interesting to see what would happen, especially if it's privatized, what would truly happen. Because that's the big reason why apparently he's trying to buy it, to turn it into a private entity and I guess desensitize it or whatever.
I don't know. I'm a real big proponent of freedom of speech, honestly. But if there's Russian trolls trying to persuade Americans to vote a certain way by just spreading complete lies, that should be taken down, because people clearly can't be trusted to source their own sources. They believe whatever comes out, and it's frustrating. I don't really know what to do.
It frustrates me so much. I was scrolling through Instagram today, and somebody posted an article about, they said 980 professional sports athletes have died in heart-related events since COVID, and they've had the jab. And they were mostly talking about soccer players and cricket players and people from the UK and all this. Anyways, here, I started doing a little bit of research. First of all, the publishing source is the stupidest name I've ever heard. This is like, hey, don't share my newsarticles.com because this is fakenews.com or .org, fakenews.org, or you know what I mean? Why are you sharing this when you have no grounding on this information? I started looking up some of the soccer players just out of curiosity. And a huge portion of them are still alive. So why are people sharing this?
Why are people sharing it?
Why are people scaring people?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I think it's important to keep it open. Yes, we're going to get people, bad actors in there and stuff like that, but we got to give people credit. I think a lot of people go and get their sources of news from a lot of different areas. Anyone that focuses on one particular source of news, I think those days are gone, especially now with all the stuff that's out there. I think it's better to have false information coming from Russians than false information, period, in general coming in, or ability to limit people because they say something. So basically, muting speech based upon what a company CEO or board thinks is proper is wrong. So we have to be vigilant on our side. Platform should be wide open. And of course, with that, there's going to come a lot of different misinformation on one side, truth on the other side. And it's up to us, right?
I hear what you're saying, but the problem with that is that historically, that doesn't happen. People believe whatever they read. I spent a lot of my time, probably way too much of my time, trying to fight disinformation things and being like, look, this isn't true, blah, blah, blah. And nobody reads it. Even the people that I'm directly responding to, they're stuck in their cloud of cognitive dissonance and they just refuse to accept actual facts. So that's the problem to me, is that a lot of people don't take the time to look it up. I feel like I do. I listen to lots of different news sources to make sure that I understand what's going on and that I'm not being lied to, or if I am being lied to, that I can spot it. People don't do that. They just refuse to do it. I'm not going to go into political stuff, but it's crazy what people believe.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I understand that. I don't have an answer for that one.
I don't either. I don't like the idea of limiting speech. I don't like that idea. But at the same time, I don't like the idea of people buying into something because of lies. The thing is that I would say let them be, right? But what they believe does have an impact on everyone, because they'll vote for certain things based on lies. And then that impacts my life, and it can impact my life negatively. So unfortunately, it does matter.
I hear you.
It's frustrating. There's no easy solution.
I think it comes down to, in our day and age, because I'm quite a bit older. I'm 56 years old. I remember back 20, 30 years ago when news was news. People just reported whatever was happening, truth. There was no bias. There was no spin put on anything. And then people took that, and good or bad, if you liked it, but you knew it was right and proper, and what was coming in was accurate as far as what was happening. Those days are gone. Now it's all a lot of opinion. I personally, like I said, it all depends how you grow up and your values and stuff like that. But like you said, it's hard to get into something like that without getting into politics.
It is. It is.
I value free speech for sure, because that's what democracy is built on. And there's so many countries in this world and people that are wanting to take that away from us, especially here in North America, where we have that, and we pride ourselves on that. I don't think we can really anymore. We can, yes, but now it's become so skewed that it's horrible, to put it bluntly.
I was just going to say, I have a slightly different view, I think, than you do about the platforms, because people are allowed to write whatever they want. That's freedom of speech. But as a platform, if what they write doesn't align with your values, you shouldn't have to keep that up. I think about the whole thing. I'm not going to get into the debate here necessarily, but I feel like if I was asked to create something that I didn't necessarily believe in, I don't think I should necessarily be forced to do it. And that's kind of how I feel too with these platforms. Platforms are companies. They're not the government. So they're allowed to have rules and standards and codes of conduct and things like that. And if people break those, then I think that they should be removed. Or I think that if things are shown to be false, I don't see why that shouldn't be removed. It can still be out there. You can still publish it, but you just can't put it on a platform that doesn't want to spread fake news.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
But it does get into a slippery slope.
Yeah, it is hard. It is. We wish everybody had the same level of integrity and stuff, that wanted to share information and stuff, that they would stick to what they know. But like I said, unfortunately, that's not the case. So how? I don't know. It's a real conundrum to even just to think about it. Makes your head
spin. It just spins. I feel like it just spins and it just comes back to the same place. And to me, the same place is, I don't know. I don't have an answer to this.
No.
We just have to figure it out as it unravels.
It's the whole thing where if you don't like the code of conduct at Twitter or Facebook, you're more than welcome to start your own kind of thing.
Yeah, I've seen people have tried that, and it hasn't been good. It hasn't been good for our government. It hasn't been good for the people. And it's just spread more hate, and people are angry these days, sadly. I'm sorry for everybody that's angry out there, but I don't know how to help you.
No, the world needs a lot more love. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's so true.
And I try to do that myself, even with differences of opinion and stuff like that. Try to keep a positive spin on things. And because when we start distancing ourselves from people and people develop grudges one towards another, and that just blocks the free transfer of information because people just isolate themselves and or their families or whatever because they don't want to participate or they don't want a candid discussion about things. I think that, the bottom line is to be willing to listen to people, other people. You don't have to agree with them, but to be able to listen to see where people are coming from and to have that open communication is key, I think, with any society to functioning. When we're closed off and people get angry because they don't like the way things are. No, nobody likes, but that doesn't mean you have to become negative about it. We have to stay positive to move forward. And with being negative comes all kinds of bad emotions and problems with your digestion. And there's so many things that can happen because we develop a negative attitude. That it's like going down a rabbit hole. You start off with this bad attitude. All of a sudden you're getting headaches. Next you could have indigestion problems, so it can attack you personally, your health. And then people start then doing stuff outside too, like attacking people, or you get these random acts of violence. So it escalates. It's a real Pandora's box for sure.
That's kind of why sometimes I do block people. I've blocked a lot of people in the past few years. I used to never block people, but I feel like my time and energy are important and I have a hard time dropping things or letting them go. And so instead of continuously hitting my head against a brick wall, I'll just block people. So when people are actively not listening or not open-minded about things or not willing to see that they might be incorrect, because if I'm wrong, I want to know that I'm wrong because I don't want to make that same mistake over and over again. But for other people, admitting that they were wrong, it just majorly wounds their psyche and they just can't bring themselves to do it. When I run up against people like that, that's when I'm just like, I can't talk to you. If you're willing to talk and listen and be open, I'm willing to talk and listen and be open, but I can't keep doing this.
I think being in the IT field, if you're not humble, I think being in IT in general keeps you humble because there's such a pile of information out there. There's so many ways to do things. And if you get really prideful or think, you're it all or a lone ranger, I've seen lots of people like that. And I think we even know some clients that may be like that, past customers, present customers, stuff like that. So I think being humble is a big part of living in society today. Just being able to say, yeah, I'm open, and saying, no, I'm wrong. And you're right.
Yeah, that's huge. I have so much respect for people who have the ability to acknowledge that they're wrong. It's hard. It is so hard, but it's something that I try to live by. If I make a mistake, which really never happens, but if I do make a mistake, I do like to acknowledge it and move on.
Yes. And moving on.
Yeah, speaking of moving on, I think we're on the same train there.
That was a rabbit hole, guys. That was a rabbit hole.
It was a rabbit hole.
No problem.
We love rabbit holes here. They're dangerous, though. Dangerous.
We do love rabbit holes. They are. But I feel like we need to carry ropes with us or maybe have Dwight pull us up from a rabbit hole.
I was scanning this list. Something that made my brain explode is, according to PurpleSec, 98% of cybercrime rely on social engineering to be successfully accomplished.
Wow, that's a lot.
Crazy. Inside jobs, humans have to interact. There has to be some interaction with their target. The people that are scamming you may know you.
Or inadvertently passed on information about you, right? To some party or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. If you didn't have humans, then you wouldn't have successful hacks.
Another one in here that stuck out is obviously that there are going to be greater governance around cryptocurrencies in the coming years. I'm kind of interested to see Dwight's take. Do you have cryptocurrency?
I do not. Something that I never got into. I guess the reason being is because when it first started, I saw the massive requirements for it, as far as data centers go and consumption of electricity and power in general. And so I guess you could say just kicked it to the curb, but it's still out there. And I don't know, what's your take on it?
Love it. I love cryptocurrency. There's two ways you can acquire it, right? Mining it or buying it. So trading a fiat currency into a cryptocurrency or an altcoin or something of those natures. But I really am excited about the future of cryptocurrency. Ethereum is amazing. The things you can do on the Ethereum blockchain, it's going to open a lot of doors. I think that in the future, banking transactions will be done on the blockchain, or institutionalized banking transactions will be done on the blockchain. And I guess we'll see. I hold cryptocurrency. I mine cryptocurrency, a little bit. And yeah, I really like it. Erin?
Yeah. So another one that I thought was really interesting that I think is good to point out is, although healthcare wasn't among the most targeted industries, which is actually really surprising, security breaches cost the healthcare industry $6 trillion in 2020. $6 trillion. And I think that is so important to understand, because as we have mentioned before, the thing is that if you're a hospital or some sort of medical center and your equipment or some devices you're locked out of your data, you're going to have to pay, especially if you don't have backups and things like that. You have to pay because people's lives are on the line. And that's why it's so important, especially for people in that industry, to really work on their cybersecurity, because if a hacker can get in, they will do it.
I clicked in to read a little bit more about that. Guess how many breaches happened to produce that $6 trillion sum? Just take a wild guess.
It's got to be a lot, right?
A billion, maybe? A billion breaches? That's global, right?
Yeah, no, sorry. This is in the U.S.
Oh, just in the U.S.
Since 2009, and by the end of $6 trillion in damages, number of breaches.
Oh, not that many, actually, right? 2,550.
If the average is 3 million.
2,100.
That's it?
That's it.
But they're big. They're major.
They're huge.
Wow.
Right? It doesn't take a lot of big breaches to make up big dollars.
Yeah, and some more crazy stats. 18% were teaching hospitals. I don't know what teaching hospital is, but anyways, 6% were pediatric hospitals. 75.6% chance of breach of at least 5 million records just within the coming year. And 34% of healthcare data breaches come from unauthorized access or some type of disclosure.
What comes to mind here to me is not so much the privacy, people's records going, but what about these medical research? The U.S. and North America, we have some major research, healthcare and research going on related to vaccines, stuff like that. And then you think about the Center for Disease Control and all this stuff. So that stuff there, I don't even see that mentioned here, but it is a part of the healthcare. Can you imagine if somebody was to get in there and maybe mess with some information or change something around? It could have catastrophic effects, especially when it comes to a pandemic or anything like that. So I don't see that mentioned here, but all it would take is just for one hack to happen, like with CDC or Johns Hopkins University or Pfizer, to get in and get some of this pertinent, just really critical, sensitive information related to some kind of research that's happening and stuff like that. I don't see it mentioned anywhere here. Do you, Billy? I just thought about that. And listen, I'm not minimizing personal information loss. But when it comes to something like that, research on new products and stuff like that, and that information to go out and then get manipulated or whatever, the myriad of things can happen to that. We get competitiveness between companies. We have bad actors from outside the country. We have countries that want to hurt the U.S. and North American in general. And what better way to try to do that than to get at some of the research information and manipulate that? That would be, just makes my eyes spin. It makes my heart hurt too.
2021 was such a huge year for breaches. We had LinkedIn, 700 million records, June to August of 2021. Facebook, 533 million accounts just in March of 2021. Healthcare related, in Brazil, the Ministry of Health, they had 223 million records just in January of 2021. In Pakistan, they have an Uber equivalent there. 400 million records just in November. This is crazy.
And listen to this too. So I clicked on that link as well about the healthcare data breaches, which we'll link in the podcast. So in the description, another interesting fact, 88% of healthcare workers opened phishing emails. To add on top of that, here's the reason why. It's because the healthcare industry invests less than 6% of its budget on cybersecurity.
And for the past 2 years, they've been fighting the pandemic. So the stress that's on that particular group, the healthcare, so that's a contributing factor there too, right? People are maxed out, stressed to the limit. People are dropping off the healthcare I know lots of nurses and healthcare people that have just kind of dropped out of the scene altogether. So that has a major impact too over good IT etiquette and stuff like that. When you're just maxed right out, everything else goes down on the scale of importance. So what better area to target than healthcare? Because we know everybody's maxed out and stressed out. So they're not going to pay too much attention to this email I'm going to send them.
Right.
Not only that, but especially in the healthcare industry, they have a decision. They can either use their budget towards life-saving medicine technology or secure people's data.
Exactly.
How can you decide between those two? I'd hate to be the person that makes that decision.
If you know anything about the Hippocratic oath and stuff like that people take, the doctors have that. I don't know what the nurses have and everything else, but these people are in there to save people's lives. I think we kind of know where the decisions are going to go, what they're going to tilt towards. And somebody has to pick up the slack, where there's government agencies to go in and say, not only say, but you can't just tell healthcare agencies to do this, do that, something else. Because they're so overmaxed and overstretched, somebody has to step in and say, we will help you. We will help you get this stuff secure. And I think that's probably what needs to happen. And probably the best thing to do would probably be with government help, some third-party agencies that are respected and vetted to go in and help some of these larger healthcare that identify and say, we haven't had the time to do this and we need some help, right? That makes sense?
Yeah.
It makes so much sense. It's scary.
It's funny because I just remember this one particular place I went to. It was a medical place. And I saw when I walked into the room, there's a computer in the patient room and it was open and you could click on anybody's name. The list was up and I was just like, that's such a HIPAA violation. You could see their first names and last name.
It was serious.
I didn't say anything. Maybe I should have, but I'm like, oh my gosh, if somebody walked in here right now, not only could they get in so much trouble, but they could also, they could access all the medical files on the information and just send it out if they wanted.
There's a simple solution to something like that, a proximity token.
Exactly.
So your gatekeeper, call gatekeeper. They take such good care of their clients. We've talked to them before on our podcast a while back. And
yeah, he's been on there twice.
Yeah. And what they're doing over there is amazing.
Yeah.
Just tell them that we sent you and they will work wonders for you. But yeah, a proximity token.
I feel like every medical center should have these tokens.
Seriously. Cheap.
Why wouldn't you? And convenient.
It's like you need an ID card to enter certain areas of the hospital. Why would you not have a proximity token to get on the computers? And those are cheap. Those are probably cheaper than your ID cards.
Yeah, you're probably right. This was a few years ago, so I didn't know about gatekeeper back then. But yeah, if you're a medical center, you need a proximity token. We can say that.
Yeah. Another alarming stat, super alarming. And this kind of leads more into compliance, but of organizations do not have an incident response plan.
Oh my goodness. And all that does is add to the cost of a breach.
If something happens, you have to know what to do.
Yeah.
If you break your arm, what are you going to do? You're going to go to the doctor that has your incident response plan. Or if you twist your ankle, you're going to go home and ice it and rest it. That's your incident response plan, kind of, in a way.
Yeah.
You need to have this.
It's so important.
It's inexcusable.
What'd you say that was? 77%?
77%. I need to pause and let you guys think about that.
Do you have an incident response plan? Probably not. But maybe they are listening to this podcast. So
just Google it, guys. Just Google it. There's templates out there for that stuff.
Yeah, even a basic plan is better than nothing.
You just need to know what to do. You need to know where the data lives. It's really important too for when you're putting together a system security plan that you have an inventory of all your assets, all your devices, their IP addresses, what type of information they store is really important. And it's not really that difficult.
Not to say I told you so, but according to this, it says with COVID-19 cybersecurity statistics, one report, PurpleSec, showed that cyber incidents rose. How much do you think? Did you look at it? How much do you think cybersecurity incidents rose during the pandemic?
I think I heard this one. I think I read this. Guys, there's so many facts here on this page. So many stats. I think it was 100+%, if I wasn't mistaken.
Multiply that by 6.
600%?
600%. I was writing blogs back then, and I remember every blog, it was like, be careful. They are coming at you. They know that you're not secure, and they are going to really go at it. And so to see that it's 600%, that's huge. And it says 64% of organizations worldwide were most likely to experience a data breach as a result of COVID-19.
But like the transition from people working in an office environment to going home and working at home just kind of brought all the lazy, or maybe the hackers have been sitting around for a while, or maybe they just saw the window of opportunity just swing right open.
Yeah, they were probably super excited when it was like, everybody's going home. And they're like,
all right, boys, let's get to work. Let's get to work. Let's get paid.
yep. And they did.
That's a shame. Another one that stuck out here is 93% of healthcare organizations have experienced data breach in the past 3 years.
3%?
93. 7% of the healthcare organizations that you have attended, I don't know where our listeners are at, but 7% of the hospitals and healthcare organizations that you have visited haven't had a breach. That's crazy.
Insane.
That is crazy.
Stuff like this brings me back to that Robert Mueller quote. I am convinced that there are only two types of companies, those that have been hacked and those that will be. And even they are converging into one category, companies that have been hacked and will be hacked again. Pretty much is what that's saying.
This is a fun one. So the government, how many records were breached, government records were breached in 2018? Take a guess. Wild guess.
6 million.
That is so low. 30 million?
Mm-hmm.
Try 1.2 billion.
Why is that surprising? That shouldn't be surprising, but it's surprising.
And anytime I see a B as in billion, I'm just jaw drop.
Bad.
1.2 billion
Oh God, that's so much.
just in the US government and just in 1 year.
Well, maybe we should talk a little bit now about the top cybersecurity threats and trends so people can know what to look out for, so they know how to protect themselves.
Segue it.
Yeah.
Do it.
So it says, first of all, the pandemic, as we mentioned, presented lots of new cybersecurity issues, and companies are working to ensure that they're prepared. So expect to see the following: enhanced software supply chain security, CMMC. Ransomware will become more of a problem for businesses. Of course it will, because why wouldn't they do it? Why wouldn't the hackers try to do something for quick, easy money? Companies are transitioning to a zero trust framework for cybersecurity, which is good. Also, there's going to be increased scrutiny on the cybersecurity measures of third-party providers, because I just want to take a second for that. At least with CMMC, if you work with a subcontractor and if they're not up to snuff, then you can get in trouble for having them as a subcontractor. So the government is putting more pressure on the actual contractors. And then you can also expect to see a rise in cyber insurance to offer further protection for businesses. But what's important to note about cyber insurance, Dwight? What do you think is important for them to note about cyber insurance?
The thing is, you have to have compliance in order to get your cyber insurance. So that's kind of a two-pronged stab at you, at your pocketbook. But yeah, no, you definitely have to be compliant. They're just not going to give you insurance if you don't have an internal audit done. A lot of these companies now, you have to audit. You got to show proof that you can pass these audits, and before they'll even bring the contract or even come see or even talk to you. So that's a big factor there. Anybody that's contemplating cyber insurance, we should also look at getting compliant too, especially for whatever your business is. If you deal with healthcare, like your HIPAA, if you're dealing with government agencies, what requirements are there? And it's not hard information to find. And of course, then we have companies like ourselves who can help with that. So we can provide you internal scans, guidance, remediation, and get you all compliant so that you can speak to a cyber insurance company with confidence, get the plans you need, get the coverage you need. And then you'll feel a lot better as a company. Not only that, then you're kind of protected. Now, cyber insurance is not a be all and end all of anything, but at least having that in place if something happens and you got some coverage.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's really important, because people like, oh, we don't need to worry about cybersecurity. We can just get cybersecurity insurance. No, it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't work that way. No.
And cybersecurity insurance isn't like health insurance. It's totally different. So obviously you will get health insurance no matter what. If you have pre-existing conditions, whatever.
Well, now you will. It used to not be like that, but.
Yeah. You will get health insurance because of newer regulations that were passed not crazy long ago. But yeah, you have the opportunity and the rights to get health insurance right now. And even if you have pre-existing conditions, you can still get it. But in cybersecurity, especially cybersecurity insurance providers, if you can't show supporting evidence, or you can't pass a pen test, or you're not up to par and you can't pass these audits, you just don't get it. You can't.
Yep.
You can't get insurance. And that's sad.
They want to make money too, insurance companies. And they know that if you don't have anything, you're likely going to get hacked.
It was like those pre-existing conditions. You just can't do it.
Or life insurance, a lot of times they will do different tests and you have to get medical tests done.
Physicals.
Same thing.
Yep.
You got to get a business medical test.
Yeah, exactly. I imagine too that the worse your cybersecurity, the higher your premiums are going to be. So that's another thing to think of.
Most cases, just totally denial of providing any service. Because the thing is, it's such a high risk now, and you're talking about millions of dollars, and these insurance companies can't. There's no in between. It's either you have it all or you don't have anything. So it's not like we can just get this, and that and forget about that. No, you have to have all this. It has to pass all these checklists, all these aspects of the compliance. So it's an all or nothing thing.
Exactly. And there's a reason for this, right? Because according to what we're looking at here, there's an average of 26,000 incidents, cyber incidents every day. And one study by the University of Maryland indicated that there's a cyber attempt every 39 seconds, which actually I'm surprised it's not like 39 every 1 second. That's why they're requiring companies to have certain measures in place because they know how prevalent these attacks are. And if you're not concerned about your cybersecurity, you're going to get hacked.
So now as IT providers, we're not even providing IT services. We're helping to prevent and mitigate a lot of this stuff. So I feel good about that, being a part of that let's help kind of thing, because it's important, right? It's very important what we do here at Petronella Tech.
Absolutely. Securing the world, basically, the new world.
I feel like a superhero for working here. I really do.
You are a superhero, Blake.
Oh, thank you. That this is such a misunderstood industry. It really is. And we're here to set the record straight.
And educate people. And people take the time to listen and try to keep things simple to them and just give the information out so that people become aware and educated, and that empowers them then to do the right thing. At least they have the information. We can bring the horse to the water, but we can't make them drink.
Can't make them drink.
All it takes is just a one step in the right direction to change almost everything. And of course, willingness to change.
Willingness, that's the thing. Yeah. It's having an open mind and say, you know what? I don't know a lot about this stuff. I think it's serious. My business may be at risk. I need to get some consultation.
It just takes just what you just said.
Educate. Education is so important, especially but with your employees. You can't expect them to know something that you don't tell them.
Yeah.
Employees are the leading cause of data breaches. A lot of them are not doing it on purpose, though. They just don't know. So you have to educate them if you want to protect yourself.
And the most important thing, hopefully I can hammer this into somebody, at least just one listener. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with needing help in this industry. There's nothing wrong with it. Nobody's going to hang you up to dry. No service provider is going to laugh at you. You should be willing to swallow your pride, because a lot of the companies that I've talked to, that we've worked with, when we pose a question and they know that the answer is no to that, oh, do you have a system security plan? And they were supposed to be self-attesting to NIST 800-171, for example. Oh, do you have a system security plan? No, we don't.
I've never even heard of that.
Or they say, I'm not sure. You don't.
Right.
And that's okay.
Don't be ashamed, because you're not alone. In fact, you're in the vast majority.
The fact that that automatically disqualifies you from your government contract, I hate to say that, but you should have read the fine print before you took millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands or whatever you took.
That's the thing, is that people that are contractors right now, since I think, 2017, they've been attesting that they have these security measures in place.
Right.
If you took money from the government since 2017 or 2018, then you have told them that you're doing these things. And the thing is, though, they weren't really enforcing it, so nobody really took it seriously. But I think that it's an average of $6 trillion. $6 trillion is stolen from the U.S. by cyber attacks.
Yeah. And once you took that money, you said to the government that you had SSP.
Yep.
You said that, and you don't.
And you could get in trouble for it. Are you going to? Probably not, but hopefully not.
Who knows?
Yeah, especially if you call us.
I think Craig was telling me about some of the big ones, some of these big contractors that had to return their grants, but I think it's 2.5 times the award or something like that. 2 times.
Yeah, the False Claims Act. There's been at least 3 that I know of, 3 big contractors that lost their cases because they lied. One company had tried to get their compliance officer to lie for them, and he turned them in instead. You're trying to get me to lie for them? Nah, nah, son.
What's crazy is the compliance industry is so amazing. Of course, nobody's going to lie for you, but it's such a warm industry. And what I mean when I say that is everybody is here to help you. There's nothing wrong with not being compliant. We expect you guys, for the most part, we expect you to not be compliant.
We would be shocked if somebody walked in and they were
If you're compliant, wow, okay.
in the top 1%,
Yeah, you're the 1% of the 1%.
right?
In the future, Erin and I talked about doing a podcast of cybersecurity regulations that you are likely subject to, but you may not even know about. That's going to be a good one. But there's nothing wrong with saying you need help. And even if you don't contact me, Erin, or Dwight, or Craig, or anybody in our company, we're doing this for you guys. We're here spending our time every single day trying to put some information, some positive information out there, the right information to help you. And the fact that you can reach out to us and get more answers, customized answers or something. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but you can get an answer to your question.
Tailored solutions.
Tailored solutions. Yeah. We're not going to make you take the red pill or blue pill.
Not yet.
We're going to figure out what's going on.
And speaking of which, actually, I think a good ending to this would be to talk about the recommendations that CompTIA gives to help protect yourself from cyber attacks. I feel like we talk about this a lot in the podcast, but I think it's always good to reiterate that. And if you don't mind, Dwight, do you see that section, how to protect yourself from cyber attacks?
Yes, I think we always have to end off on a positive note.
I agree.
Please.
Listen, if we're giving you all this negative information, not negative, but and a lot of it's realistic.
It's scary, though.
Yeah, it is. Protecting yourself from cyber attacks often involves the right education. Big thing right away. Don't be afraid to learn. As noted above, most cyber incidents evolve by way of human error, not a failing in technology. So educating people, your staff, yourself included, is a big part of it. So the first point, educate your people, right? Train your staff to recognize different types of attacks, such as phishing and email scams. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort to do that. And we can help with that. We can put together a training program that can be presented in person, virtually, or whatever.
And also, I want to add to that, we created our own CMMC training because we couldn't find anything out there that would fulfill the training requirements. Yeah, so we have the ability to help you with that.
Thanks for that, Erin. And then second point, enable multi-factor authentication. A lot of people still don't use this. This is something very easy to implement. Takes seconds. Well, a couple of minutes, if not seconds. For those that don't know what that is, basically, it means we're authenticating or there's a second level of authentication to protect you. And it involves something that's removed from whatever you're in. For instance, your bank account. You use your phone as a second form of authentication. You get a text message. So you try to log in, it'll pop up. Oh, we got to send a code to your phone to verify who you are. So for bad actors, that's not going to work. But for you, it will work because you set up your two-factor and you have your mobile phone in hand. And then number 3, penetration testing. That's something we do here as well. And that's important to see how vulnerable a particular application, network, and or work environment may be. And then number 4, monitor threat intelligence. So providing, there's lots of different programs, software and hardware that's available out there to monitor your existing network for emerging threats like vulnerabilities in applications. Adobe, for instance, is famous for all its vulnerabilities, right? For elevation attacks and stuff like that. So nothing to put down on Adobe, but they have quite a few instances. And of course, there's many other applications too. So there's programs and software out there that can help with that. And so that's all 4 points under how to protect yourself from cyber attacks. Anything you want to elaborate, Blake or Erin?
Yeah. When you talked about threat intelligence, the first thing that sprung into my mind is XDR. It's new, it's exciting, I think, and I think all of us here think, and that's the reason why we talk about it all the time. But I think it's the future of cybersecurity.
It is such the future. It really is. Where else can it go? It marries AI with humans. You've got humans watching, but you also have AI learning the different viruses and setting up different honeypots to try to capture anybody that's dwelling in your computers. Sounds so creepy because it kind of is, but you can't beat it. And if you are a business and you know about XDR and you don't have it, I don't know what to say about that. To me, it's just so crazy because it's such a efficient solution. It's just an efficient solution. It's not the only solution because all of these other things are extremely important, but even if somebody or a threat actor is able to get through everything else, all the other layers, right? This is the final boss. XDR is like the final boss. And it's going to be really hard to do damage if you have XDR.
Yeah, because it's got that built AI and it looks at action patterns and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very trendy, but yet it's very effective.
Yeah, human and AI together, doing
combination of both. Yeah.
Yeah, doing what they do. And you don't have to pay for the monitoring. That's the other thing with XDR. And this isn't even a commercial. We were even planning on talking about XDR, but it's just so important. You have your own team. You have your own team watching. They're watching other people's systems too, but that's what they do all day. They sit there and they watch for trouble. I also want to say before we leave, multi-factor authentication is another thing. If you have multi-factor authentication, it's 90+% you're not going to get hacked versus people that don't. You think about it, right? If you're a robber and you're trying to break into a house, are you going to break into a house that has one door locked? Or are you going to go next door where they have a security system, a dog, and all their doors locked?
Yeah. Path of least resistance, right?
Yeah. They're going to give up. They're going to give up if they don't have access to your phone.
The keypad is locked, but the deadbolt is not.
Exactly.
That's something that you can do yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't have to call us.
And it's slightly inconvenient, but it's not that big of a deal.
Not really. Especially, I'm sure some of you guys have the Google Authenticator app.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody using that?
Oh, yeah.
I have it too. We got to use it. Just connect your Google Authentication app to all the 2FAs that support it. And bam, you log into that and it gives you like 1 million codes to pop up for the app you're using. You need it.
Use it.
Yeah.
It's so easy and cheap.
Or even a hardware token.
Yes, hardware token. I love my Gatekeeper. I love it. It's so convenient.
Yep.
I don't have the token. I have the app on my phone.
I have a YubiKey, which is pretty awesome.
YubiKey is very popular.
Yeah, it's cheap, popular. Jonathan gave it to me as like a gift one time, and I was like, dude, this is so awesome. And yeah, it's something like that. It's super cheap. And for those of you who don't know what a YubiKey is, essentially it's just a hardware token. And before you access different parts of your computer, you have to have, or software or files or whatever, you have to have this key plugged in to access folders and directories and things like that. So it's really helpful, especially if you've got company financial data or employee social security number. Those are really important data points that you need to keep secure.
That's another really good point, too. We did a podcast on this, but your bad cyber hygiene, this is the name of the title of the podcast, but your bad cyber hygiene does impact other people, or it can impact other people, especially if you're a business.
For sure.
Sure it does.
If you don't do it for yourself, do it for your customers, do it for the employees. Don't be selfish.
We say this every time, every podcast. I think I say this, I beat this home, but you can spend 20 years growing your business and one incident can take you down.
Yep.
And this is not to fear monger, because we just literally had such a positive comeback.
Yeah, we did.
This is not to fear monger, but it's just the truth.
Just let you know how easy it can happen. You're right. It can happen quite easily.
Yeah.
But making it positive, right? Just doing these small little things. It's not perfect, but it will help so much. So just be mindful. Just be mindful. Be mindful of your surroundings. Be mindful of your employees and people that you care about. And if you think about it that way, some people care more about other people than they do about themselves.
Yeah.
Think about it that way.
The way to wrap this up is you're not alone. And there are people out here that care. Like Erin said, there are people that genuinely care about helping you. And I like to sit on that board of directors so they care.
Absolutely. I think that was really good, guys. I think that we gave our listeners some really good information to chew on and think over. Again, I will go ahead and post the links in the description. So if you guys want to see this, but this is also stuff that we've talked about, but I think it's important to hear it from a different source. We're not just making this stuff up. It's really important.
Definitely the people that put together these resources, especially for this podcast and the last podcast, those are the MVPs. There's a lot of citing in these articles. There's a lot of research that goes into it, and we're just bringing it to light.
Exactly.
And yeah, happy Easter, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Cybersecurity and Compliance Podcast with Craig Petronella. For other episodes and more information, visit PetronellaTech.com. Also visit our other websites, ComplianceArmor.com and BlockchainSecurity.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for listening, and stay secure.